Hello everyone, I am Galaxy Drifter and welcome back to this new video once more on Trailmakers. Now, I wasn't supposed to make this video. My previous one in my mind was a one-and-off thing. I just wanted to show to you a concept that I came up with, not really. Somebody else already developed it independently from me. I just discovered it one day by accident and then made something of it. And that was supposed to be it, really. But thanks to a comment from Jan Niklas V8Q that commented on my previous video asking me to bring some more Trailmakers, here I am. So thank you Jan Niklas for your comment on my previous video. What I want to talk to you about today is planes. As you all know, Trailmakers has a really large community for planes, not only even cars and all sorts of crazy inventions, but planes are a really big slice of it, and that's also a really big slice of my projects. All that you see here are planes, 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 and even more planes that I made over the years. I don't even know how long I've been playing Trailmakers for. I think I started with the Airborne expansion, which is not too long ago, maybe a year, two, I don't exactly remember. But in this time I've played quite a lot of Trailmakers and I've gotten better and better with my planes especially. And so today I want to talk to you about planes. These are some of my planes, the best that I made, and I want to talk about them to you, especially giving you some tips and tricks that I use for my builds, not only for a looks perspective, purely aesthetics, but also my parameters for a build, what must it have, and their fighting capabilities, what I want my fighter planes, because these are all fighter except this one, this is a fighter bomber. All the things that my planes need to have for me to be happy and confident with them in a battle. So these planes are not in the order that I created them. In fact, the last ones precede all of this, but all of this has been pioneered by that one, and that one is kind of the last planes. The last two are my benchmark. Everything must be that quality or superior for me to be happy within a build, depending on what I want to do with them, of course. So let's start with this one. You are already familiar with this. I showed this in the previous video, but I didn't explain much except for the gyro stabilization and mouse controls that I put in it. And psych, this one doesn't have any gyros and doesn't have any mouse controls. This is all keyboard, and I modified this model for that video specifically. So let's take a look at it. For this plane I wanted something small and light. As you can see, it has 75 blocks and only 10 power cores. This is going to be our recurring theme in many of my builds, and also from some other builds like this plane over here and this other plane that is derivative of this first one. So I found out during the course of time that max complexity builds and gun spam are really annoying. I bet everyone can agree with that. I think that no one will say otherwise. So I thought, how about I build something with some restrictions. If you go see some creators like Scrapman, Uzi, Little Corn Dogs, when they meet up and have their multiplayer sessions, they more often than not choose a limit for power cores and blocks in order to have a fair fight. And I was inspired by that and decided to go along with it. So, my parameters for this plane were no more than 100 blocks and no more than 10 cores. And so here I am. Now I gave myself different core limits based on the ranking, with the air quotes, of the planes, or all the creations I want to make, and these rankings are based on basically the leagues that are inside Trailmakers itself, which is 0, 1, 5, 10, 15, 30, and then that's infinite, but I have a 50 cap for myself. And why 50? That's because 51 is the limit for the airborne expansion, in story mode at least. But 51 was a kind of weird number, so I rounded up to 50 just because. So I can use some of my creations inside the airborne as well. Not all, gyros not accepted in the campaign, but still. So let's dissect this thing. First of all, I want you to take a look at my controls. Let's start with the flap wings. If we go look, I have a Q on toggle and an X. Why this X? What does it do exactly? Well, it does the opposite. Q is the default control. If you go into sandbox mode and I press Q, the ailerons deploy. So I have the flaps. Those are not ailerons, those are flaps. I'm already making mistakes. The flaps deploy and give the plane more lift. And so why the X, that as you can see, controls even the stabilizers? Well, that's because you might agree with me. In this game has been added recently, where is it? This thingy over here. That is very annoying. I think that no one likes this, because it scrambles your control. So I wanted to make my planes resistant to the EMP launchers. And how did I went along with this? Everything of all my planes, this one, every plane is designed to counter EMPs, or at least absorb them as much as possible, and even if I lose control, to quickly regain it without having my control scrambled, or thrust, ailerons, whatever, flaps offset from each other. So let's say that I get hit by an EMP and it deploys this flap, and this one stays put. Being the control on a toggle, if I press it again, the flaps just will invert. This one will deploy and this one will retreat, giving me an uneven lift surface. So what does X do? If we press Q to activate the flaps, and let's say one is deployed, the other is not because I got hit by an EMP, I just press X and they both return to their place. X is not on a toggle, because without a toggle it will just reset, the part will reset itself. So this is tip number one that I give you on how to make things EMP resistant. And let's segue to the stabilizers. It has an X control as well, but why do I want to have an X control on this? I just could not put anything and it won't matter. But I have a left control set into it. Why would I? I mean, usually the aileron is used for yaw, but I don't have yaw on this plane, and usually yaw is set to Q and E or A and D, and you can play around with those controls. Usually those are the keys that get input into it. Well, if it doesn't have any yaw, why would I put controls into the tail stabilizers? That's because I like to have air brakes on my planes. When I fly, I can deploy the air brake and it will slow me down, and also it is really useful to perform tighter turns. I will show you. Let's take flight. Here we go. And we are airborne. So now, if we try to make a loop-de-loop, let's look. Okay, this plane here I really like because it has a really tight turn radius. But let's do it now with the air brake deployed. Have you seen how much tighter that was? And well, this really helps during a dogfight, in my opinion, because you can outmaneuver your opponent and really mess with them, so that you can go from a position where you are in front of them and snap right to the back without them even noticing, without being really confused, and so you can shoot at their tail without them able to do anything about it. Speed is really important in a dogfight, but maneuverability is way more important than speed. In fact, historically, prop planes, which I do have on my carrier that I'm going to show you, are usually more maneuverable than fighter jets, but they are way slower. And this theorized that a prop plane could win a dogfight against a fighter jet any day. Now, yeah, prop planes don't have rockets, or at least most of them don't. I think that historically some have. And jets have rockets, which can... missiles rather. There's a difference between rocket and missile, but rather missiles can just beeline for the target and destroy it, no problem. Anyway, let's land this thing. Oh, and another thing that I want to give it to you as a tip is always have flaps. It can help you with the maneuverability as well. In fact, if we use air brakes and flaps together, the tight turn gets even tighter. And it also helps you to slow down or fly at lower speeds. So let's go in for a landing. Let's cut the throttle. Let's open the air brake. No throttle, and let's put some flap to it. Nice and gentle, like a feather. That's why I really like these kind of planes. Small, light, maneuverable. Can I taxi this? I don't think I can. Let's try my best. No, I can't really turn it. Oh well, I just repair it over here. Okay, now let's take another look at this. During the landing sequence, I said a phrase that to most keyboard users will result a bit strange. Let's cut the throttle. What did I mean by that? It's not like I can regulate how much throttle I give into a key. It's not like I can slightly press the key to give it more throttle. Well, if we take a look at how the thrusters are hooked up, not only they are hooked up to the seat, but also they are hooked up onto a logic gate. And what does this do? Simple. I have a keybind on a toggle, on left alt in this case, because I use space and left alt is right next to it, for 50% power. And this gives us the ability to regulate our throttle. In flight, this is really useful because we can slow down or accelerate at will, especially if we use air brakes on our left, in my case, a left control. You can set it to whatever. You can really modulate your throttle, your speed, and this will help you during the fight. How exactly being slower than your opponent might help you in a fight. You can stay on his tail. The opponent might try to shake you off, any way it can, by swerving, doing some tight turns, tight maneuvers or whatever, but as long as you are slower than him and more maneuverable, you can stay right on his tail no matter what. And another thing that I want to tell you, always disable smoke. A smoke trail makes you easy to follow. So smoke trails makes you easy to follow, and it will give away to your opponent the direction you are taking. So disable it, and you will be much harder to follow. A way that I hooked up these thrusters for the variable throttle is on a logic gate that is on half connected to both, but there are other ways you can do it. For example, you can put two Dragon engines, Dragon jets, in line like this, and have this one hooked up on a toggle with a logic gate or without. I always suggest to use a logic gate in case of EMP, so it doesn't get stuck. So have this one on a toggle and this one without a toggle on their own space, but hook up space on this one. So you might do something like put space here, put space here, then take the logic gate, hook it up on here, and have it on alt as well on half power. And this gives it a really nice effect where on low power you have a small flame coming out because this is covering half of it, and then when you go full throttle you have a bigger flame, which on some other plays I did do. So this is another way you can do it, and is really up to you on a case-by-case basis. Okay, now let's take the hood off of this plane to show you another trick. And this is basically it. Grid blocks. Lots and lots of grid blocks. In places where you cannot really see inside, there's no reason for us to put a 2x4 which weighs 2.5 kilos instead of some grid blocks that weigh 0.3 kilos for 3, 6, 9, 1.2. Basically it's half of the weight of this. So for saving weight you can use grid blocks that are also really useful for speed, because less weight means more speed, and I suggest to use 1x2s and not 1x4s because they have more connection points, so it gives some more structural integrity. And that's all for this plane, which by the way I have failed to mention is based on a Russian MiG. Let's get right on the next one, which just... Why are all they gone? Okay, try Unity thingy, Trailmakers, whatever, aside. Did another plane just despawn? Yeah, I think there's a timer on the builds that are basically disappearing. Maybe it's a 20-minute timer, I believe. Well, I just put this one back and I'll take the other ones as we go at this point. Anyways, these two are based on American World War II fighters and bombers, a little mix of everything. There is really a single plane that I used as a reference. It's a bit of a Mustang, a bit of a Corsair, a bit of whatever really. And let's start with this one. First thing we can see, this is a little bit of piston glitch. This will jam inside the main fuselage. That is a thing that I don't really like to do. I failed to mention this first, but glitches I really do hate. And by glitches I mean drag glitch, piston glitching, UFO engines, everything. I just don't like it. I think it is unfair for other players. I mean, if you play in a server where it is agreed that you're going to do that with other players, perfectly fine. If I'm playing on a casual server, random server, I don't like to have that thing. it can be really annoying, especially if your opponent can go Mach 10 in 1 second and just be zip around the map, being absolutely annoying and impossible to catch. So let's take a look at this plane. As we can see, I have the flaps, which are set on 1 because this one has yaw integrated, even if it doesn't work really well, but it doesn't matter. Now, a bit confused on why it doesn't have a toggle on X really for the EMPs, but I think that, if I'm not mistaken, it might be inside here. Let's see. No, there is not. I just forgot to put it in. If we take a look at the inside inner workings of this plane, we can see that we have 2 logic gates and a hidden Dragon Jet, which gives it more power because only the propeller is not really that great for speed, but it's really good for maneuverability having propellers. So let's take a look at the logic gates. These are not really different from the previous plane. It is an alt input on a half input hooked to both engines, so we can have modular throttle, and this is a good thing to have, always have. And then the engines themselves are hooked on space. And the second one doesn't really do much, it's just a trigger for the hinges. That's basically it for this plane. If we have a look in depth to maybe aerodynamics, the prop is not the really best thing to have for aeros, and also this tube elbow that I use to make the exhaust of the plane doesn't really help, but sometimes one must sacrifice some aeros for some aesthetics. I prefer not to do that, but in this case I did. Also, this wedge is not really the best, but you know, you can make do. And a really smart thing that I like to do is to use this long hood piece and other things as well as decoration, because they don't have aerodynamics. You can see there are no arrows going into it. So it does have weight, yes, but it is ignored about air resistance, which is really good for your builds. The piston here also ruins the aerodynamics a bit. It can make it fly towards one side mostly, but this is not really the case, fortunately. This manages to fly it quite well. As I said previously, this has 10 power cores and 76 blocks, so small, light, within my limits. And that's basically it for this plane, so let's go take a look at the next one, which is basically more of the same, but this is a fighter, then this is a fighter bomber. As you can see, it is always within the 100 block limits, but I added some more power cores, 15 cores, putting it into jet leg. Let's remove aerodynamics. This one does not have a piston glitch tail because Unity didn't let me do it. Basically, it would just go crazy, don't really mesh like this one. I tried to put the same tail on this, but it didn't work, so I had to leave it be. Now let's remember what I did here, because I see flap wings don't have any inputs, and maybe it is all inside here. No, I just forgot to put it in again. Great, good thing I double checked my builds before making a video on the subject. Good, perfect. Anyways, I forgot to put the controls on the flap wings, but if I had, they would have been 1 or Q, doesn't matter, on a toggle, and X, I said X, on here to help with EMPs. For thrusters, I have one large propeller and 2 space thrusters. They are not compatible. Oh well, they are all hooked on space, and there is a logic gate over here on a 50% input. In this case, could I put 100 on this one, just take it off the hook and set them on alt directly and just leave the prop, but like this it was more functional for throttle control, because in both this plane and this other plane we don't have an air brake, unfortunately. This kind of single tail build, single stabilizer build, doesn't really get itself to air brakes unless you can maybe do something with the flaps, but it might make your flight unstable, maybe putting too much downforce or upforce, or lift rather, making it go a little bit crazy. I usually prefer to have two tails so I can have my opposing radars. The radars go into opposed directions for air brake. An interesting thing about this plane is that I added some decoration in the forms the form of bombs. I have a bomb bay over here that I've created. Oh wait, I have some more. Oh wait, what the hell do I have over here? Oh, okay, now I remember. This is the flap control. I just set a logic gate on Q. That wasn't really necessary. I don't exactly remember why I did this. Maybe it was experimenting with the different things. So why this way? Because I've noticed that if the EMP usually messes around with the controls on the single block. If we remove controls from the blocks, the EMP won't affect them as much, but it could always affect the logic gate. In this case, even if the EMP was to mess with the logic gate, both flaps will always be deployed at the same time, either open or closed, not without being asymmetrical, one open and one closed, which is way more functional to have. If an EMP hits you and opens your flaps, you just press Q again and close them back up without really any problem, without having any uneven lift. What this one do? Oh yeah, now I remember. I also hooked space on my flaps because this plane didn't really fly straight. It had a bit too much of a nose down, which was really annoying. And so flying at low speeds with flaps deployed, mostly if you fly slow you should deploy your flaps, wasn't a problem. But as soon as I accelerated, giving it full thrust with flaps open, it would just point its nose up and stall pretty quickly. And with the flaps closed at full throttle, it would just nose down and take a dive. Usually on your plane you would like to have a slight nose down, because a nose up makes your plane stall. And that's why I fiddle around with the output until I found the right amount to make it fly straight. So when I press space, I go full throttle, a little bit of flap deploys, and I can fly level without too much of a problem. Now, do I have some more logic gates? No, I think that's it. Yes, that is all. Oh, right, I didn't talk about this. This is a compass. It really does nothing. It's just a block that I use to save on block count. So instead of having something, for example, 2 1x2s like this, I just have a how we really can call this, 2x2, more or less. That saves me some block count. This is a building tip that that not many people use or even know, because this is considered to be a logic part, and so people just don't think to use it that way, but I do, and I really like it. Okay, let's talk about aesthetics now. This is a little bomb that took quite some time to design, because if we take a look at aerodynamics here, I have some red over here that I didn't really like, and I tried for the longest time to fiddle with it to make it work, but it didn't really work. And being like this, going outwards quite a while, 3 blocks, because this counts as part of the bomb bay, even if it is mostly air, it is still part of the hitbox. And having it in other place, maybe at the beginning I had it over here like this, but by dropping bombs, especially if your angle of attack was too vertical, it would just hit itself with its own bomb, so I had to put some distance from the bodies and the bombs not to blow myself up. But this gave me the opportunity to make the bomb bay into sort of detail of this little bomb that I modeled. If you want to take a closer look at it, that is how I made it. I also modeled some small drop bombs over here. I used a tube T cross, a cylinder and a cone. Very simple, but doing it like this, it negatively impacts aerodynamics. See, and you may say, well, it's still green arrows. Yes, but it is more arrows, which makes your plane slower, even if slightly, and is also more weight, which this was part of the problem that I had with the nose down, and takes away from your speed, from your maneuverability. Sometime later I found out another way to do this with accessories which don't have, with most of them at least, don't really have problem with drag. Okay, let's put arrows back in. This is a sharp air intake. It is not affected by aerodynamics. It gives a nice look to the plane overall. So that's it as well for this plane. Let's go to the next. Okay, and the next plane on my list was this one. This is inspired by an F-15 and a mix of F-16 in between, and was inspired to me by Uzi, which was built something really close to this. I modified it a little according to my own taste. That's how you should build, always build, remember. Which was building this plane, I don't remember exactly for what, I think was to fight against Scrapmen. But yeah, I really like its design, so I took it and made it my own. Let's take a look at this plane. First of all, things I don't like. I didn't really go that well with the aerodynamics. These thingies over here, these prongs that I made because it looked cool, really make it a worse fighter than it should be, and it would be better without, but I wanted to put them in as an experiment, and it kinda ruined it. I maybe could remake it one day. Let's take a look at the thrust that I used. What? Stay there. Come on. Okay. I use a Dragon Jet and a Space Thruster, and I think that's it. Oh yeah, this plane uses 100 blocks as the previous ones, and 30 power cores because I wanted this to be a bit more powerful. I don't think I have used much thrust in this. No, not much at all, and some space engines. Yes. Okay, that's everything I put in. And do I have some logic? Yes, yes I do. No, just a seat. Okay, how did I make it this then? Oh, okay, on this one I didn't use any thrust control apparently, unless... No, no thrust control. Oh wait. Well, what did I have in my head when I built this? The flaps are set with an X for the AMPs, very good. And on this plane I use some rocket launchers. I don't really like to use them, they tend to blow you up more than your opponent, usually. So I just don't use them. But if you want to use them, a tip I can give you is to set one of them on a 0.15 delay. This way, if you don't, you will always launch both of your rockets at the same time, which I don't think is really all that useful, because if you shoot both rockets at the same time, either both are going to hit, in this case only one will have been enough, and either both are gonna miss, which will leave you without any rockets. Having rockets on a 1.5 delay will allow you to do this. Shoot one, wait some more, shoot a second, and have the other one ready immediately. How did I do this? Well, it's a simple system of one tap and keep pressing. That's it. If you want to shoot one rocket, tap. If you want to shoot the second, press. In this way you can do something like this. I have a somewhat constant barrage. And this will also be helpful just in case you want to shoot your rockets. You shoot the first, you miss, and you have your second one ready. So always remember to have at least a 1 5-second delay on your rockets, and also for your guns, really, you should have some sort of delay. 0.3 or 0.4 on miniguns, mat cannons, blasters or whatever. In this way your bullets won't hit at the same time, because I think if a projectile hits a target, if more than one projectile hits a target on the same tick of the game, it will register only one bullet as damage. In this way you will have a way faster fire rate. Nothing more to talk about this yet. Oh well, I added the gyros, which are in here, with the same method that I showed you on the previous video. Oh, I have some thrusters which are on space as well. Yeah, I forgot completely to put throat control on this, but anyways. The angle sensor, what is it for? Oh, for the flaps, because this could not really fly that well inverted. It will just take a dive, so I chose to use an angle sensor, so it will detect when it's upside down and deploy the flaps to give it some more stability when flying inverted, to give it some more maneuverability during tight turns and dogfights. We have a gyro here and a gyro here, yes, which are set to 10 strength but without controls. The controls are given by the logic gates, which are on 1.5, or rather 0.1.15, not hooked into the gyros. Why? I don't have pitch hooked into the gyro. Well, strange. Okay, Okay, let's put everything back together. And a thing I like about this plane is how I made the thrust, which I could have done better. I mean with the with the color, because white on white and unpleasable. White on white doesn't really look that good. But doing it this way, having the dragon jets before the space thruster with two rounded pieces, like so. When you fly, it gives the impression that this is the main exhaust, because space thrusters don't really have a flame on them. But like this, it looks like it has a flame, and which I think is really neat, and I really do like. Okay, let's move on to the next plane. And this is the latest plane that I've built, but I haven't finished it yet. This is a mix of an F-18 and a MiG, I don't remember the exact model because I forgot. With this plane I took everything that I shown you up until now and I made it better. So, this plane has rockets because I wanted to put them there, but I still keep hitting myself. Well, to be fair, even smart cannons hit my nose. So I had to take a different approach to this. I think that maybe I can remove the rocket launchers and add more cannons, smart cannons, or even lasers. But, well, a difference we can already see. I swapped the points. Let's put it close to this other plane. Okay. I swapped these thingies, these point thingies, for some, how are they called? Chrome trim, which can be found on accessories and bumpers. There are thick and thins, this is what I used. As you can see, and this from this name, it is made chrome, so it will shine quite a lot. And maybe if you like it shiny, you can keep it shiny, but if you don't, you can't really paint it anything else. You can see I'm changing color, but it does absolutely nothing. So what can you do about it? How can you color it? Well, go to stickers, select a square, put it on size 10 and choose your color. Wait. Okay, like this, and choose your color. Once you are done choosing your color, just put apply and you're done. You change the color of the part. Stickers are way more useful than you might think. I use them on these fake missiles too. And always remember, another advantage that accessories have is they have no aerodynamic resistance. So you can see the wing has aerodynamics, which is pretty bad, but the trims do not, so they won't slow you down in any way, and also they're really light, so you can just add them without worrying too much. Well, a thing that have is they are a bit tricky to position, but you can also always find a workaround for that if you look hard enough. The flaps have an X toggle, same thing for the tail, which this plane has an air brake. I also added these lights, which turn on when I air brake. That's because on other planes, let's take it back, where was it? Okay, that's because on this plane, if I activate the air brake, I can see it, no problem. But how I made this by shaping the tail with blocks. These blocks really obstruct the view. Now the air brake is active, but I cannot tell, except for the lights, red lights that I put on them. Oh yeah, another thing I wanted to say is this, the nose of this plane is inspired by a uses plane, uses F18 that I have over here. Here it is. This is uses F18, and as you can see, the nose of my plane is inspired by the nose of his plane. Okay, this does have modular thrust. Yeah, yes, there's the logic gate over here. The altitude sensor. Oh yeah, the altitude sensor that I forgot to talk about because the other players didn't have it. Always put an altitude sensor hooked in all of your thrusters on a 0.033 output, because it will let you accelerate instantly. It does not take time to ramp up the engine to give it throttle. It just will go from 0 to 100 instantly. 0%, 100% in the press of a button. That's because we trick the game into thinking that the engine is on, which it is, but is too little of an input to effectively turn it on. But the game thinks it is, so when you give it some more throttle, in this case just press your space, it will count as already on, so it won't take time to do all the turn on sequence. And here it is, okay. And this is my modular throttle. I think I did this a bit differently. Yes, I did this differently from the other planes. I hooked half of my thrusters onto these, well, not really half, but hook only some of my thrusters onto the logic gate on a toggle, and then every other thruster, maybe the one that are hooked onto the logic gate, have a space as their main input. Why did I do this? Because if I want to have full thrust, I just can press space. If I want to have some thrust, I can just keep Alt. But in this way, I can just activate Alt and have some thrust, and then press space, have some more. But if I want to turn everything off and on altogether, I can just press space and anyways, without the need to go Alt and space, Alt and space, Alt and space every time. Now let's talk a bit about the aesthetics. First things I want to talk about is how I made the intake, which is the best aerodynamically possible. And how I made this is, let me select it. Okay, I can't do it all in once. Okay. Basically, I did it like this. I use an angle sensor as my base, and then with this wedge, 2x2 wedge, which is not really the best wedge for aerodynamics, but it's good enough. I made it more aerodynamic, so the face of the angle sensor wouldn't be all red. See, just put this on top so we can screen, but there's also some red in here. And that's why I added a shield. I don't really know how much aerodynamically good are shields, but as you can see, the game considers them to be really good. If we want to be fair, even the 4 wedge has green arrows, the same as the 2 wedge, but the 4 wedge has better aerodynamics, so take that with a pinch of salt. And then I used 2 long hood that I showed you previously that have no aerodynamics to tie everything together with some structural integrity, so the shield piece was attached to something without falling off. And then I put it in front of my Dragon Jet, which has a slightly worse aerodynamics, to make it a little bit better. I'm really happy with this plane. It's still in development, and I'll take a look at this in the future. Maybe we could do it together. And the last thing I want to talk about is the rockets that I made. Rockets or missile or whatever. Here I built a pylon to attach things to, which is made with a rounded 2x1 and a taillight. The taillight is really not necessary, but it looks good if we detach the rockets that we made. Rockets that look a bit wonky, but unfortunately that's the best you can do. And how did I make these rockets? I used the chrome bumpers, a bottle, and a rounded side view mirror. These blocks are all accessories. The bumper is this one. This is the rounded side view mirror that I use for the back. And the bottle can be found on... I forgot. Details? Yes, the bottle is found on details. You can use this bottle or this bottle as you want, there's not really much difference. I find it annoying that its main texture is glass, so it's a bit see-through, but people are not really going to look at it closely, being under the wing of your plane. Not even you are going to look at it all that much unless you know where to go look for it. And this block can't really be painted, same thing for the bottle. The side view mirror, yes, can be painted, but there's always this mirror part. So how did I paint them? As I said before, I used decals, and if you go in decals, I use a square shape on 10, all black. Let's move it so I can show you how I put it on. Now, if you were to put your decals individually, like this maybe, and then another one over here, no, wrong key. Okay, you can already see that it's not really evenly painted. There is this chrome part shining through that can be annoying. So how I did it is I selected everything all at once, like this, found a nice angle, like this one, where I can see every face. So I can see the side, the bottom, maybe more like this. And the top doesn't really matter because it's going to be covered by the wing, so we can ignore it. So let's position it like this. Let's take our decal, our square, and let's slap it on like so. And voila! Now our missiles are painted correctly. Not much chrome can be seen. Well, some of it, but that's just how things are. And it looks like any normal part without too much chrome shining through. Now if we want to fix this even more, we can do it individually, reposition it a bit more like this. Okay, which is a little bit better. But anyway, that's it for the missiles, and I want to talk about my thrusters. Now, space thrusters are not really that good, in my opinion. I always prefer to have Dragon Jets for speed, even if they weigh more, because they have a 300 power for 30 kgs, when space thrusters have 250 power for 15 kgs. Now the ratio is in favor of space thrusters. Also they are smaller, so you can fit more inside the plane, but the point when placed is not to fit as much thrust inside as possible, but to stay inside the limit that I set myself to. Now in this case I don't have block limit, but I do have a power core limit of 50, and I'm at 49 at the moment. So this is the setup that I want to have on my plane. But I want to focus more on the fact that space thrusters, I don't really like them for aesthetics, because let's set it up like I did here. The color of the thruster is always a bit weird, doesn't really match the flame that a jet might give out. I mean, if you set it right against a Dragon Jet, the flame is going to be blue, so you can paint it bluish, but it's always going to be a bit weird. Jets usually have yellowish flames, which is kind of strange when you put it behind a Dragon Jet, because you are going to have a yellow light with blue flame coming out. And if you didn't notice already, this thruster and this thruster look really different when I change the color, because this has a really nice gradient that gives the impression of being more heat, more light coming out from the center, irradiating towards the outside. How did I do this? And well, the answer is you do this with stickers. I did this by selecting an orange hue, the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth orange, fifth color, and then by using a decal. This decal, unfortunately, is only going to be available if you purchase the pack, and it's going to be this circle one right here. So this is going to be a little bit too big. I think I put it on a 1, no, 1.5 then, 1.25, sorry. Yeah, this looks to be better. You center it as best as you can. Okay, this should be enough. You give it OK, and then we paint it. And the colors that I chose for this are white. That's not the decal, I'm painting the thruster. So here, the color that I chose for the decal are white for the center and yellow for the outside. Maybe a red? No, I chose a yellow, which gives more an idea of energy, light irradiating towards the outside. And that's all for this plane as well. So now let's take a look at the final plane that I've made. And here we are to the final plane that I want to show you for today. Now you may be asking me why you have two planes that are basically the same. The answer is they're not the same, they are slightly different. If you look at the front, especially here, you can see I have a thruster, but there I have a blaster. So thruster blaster. This is because I don't usually make only one version of my planes, but I make lots of different versions. In this case specifically, if we go into build mode and go through the folder of this plane specifically, as you can see, I have a lot of iterations and some other over here. Now, I have a laser version and a smart cannon version. I also have a miniguns, rockets and whatever. Based on what the server rules are. And also so I can experiment with different configuration before choosing which one is the best. And what I wanted to do with this plane was first of all speed. I wanted it to be fast, really fast. Second of all, I wanted it to be maneuverable. I wanted it to outmaneuver and outpace every other plane. And damage came in third. So let's start with this one, which has smart cannons, but is the fastest of the two. That's because a smart cannon has 2 power cores, when a blaster has 4. These have both 4 blasters and 4 smart cannons. So these having the smart cannons on took power cores away from the thrusters, and so this one has more thrust and thus can go faster. The target speed that I had in mind for this plane was 800 kilometers per hour, also known in freedom units as 500 miles. Now, the idea for this plane came to me after a dogfight that I did with a guy that had not that really good of a plane aesthetically, but it was hella fast. I could not keep up with it. It was impossible to follow him, to see on his tail, to shoot it down. It was impossible. And he said that that was because of his swept wing design. So this is my only swept wing plane that I've ever made. But then this I do like. So let's take it for a flight. In order to take off, wings must be open, air brake, this is the first plane that I put air brake in, must be disabled. Let's go half throttle, and now let's go full throttle, and we have takeoff. I want to show you how fast it can reach top speed. And here we are at 800 kilometers per hour, which is the speed that a commercial airliner has. More or less 850 is more or less where they are. Which is really fit to do in Trailmakers, because aerodynamics are not really all that realistic. They are just arcadey, but that's close enough. If I spread my wings, we can see that we are decelerating and also catching some more lift. My nose is pulling up, and this will make me stall. With wings closed, the stalling is not really a problem. But if my wings are closed, my turning radius suffers from it. With open wings, I can turn way sharper. Also, I bled out a lot of speed to show that, so let's take some more speed. $800, okay, let's do a loop-de-loop. And that's how large the loop was. Now let's go up to 100 once again. Let's open the wings and let's do another loop-de-loop. and as you can see, it was much sharper. And I told you that I have air brakes too, so let's do another one with air brakes on as soon as we catch speed. Okay, let's go. I basically turned on place. And this is not only thanks to my good maneuverability, but also because I do have gyros installed for yaw, for roll, and for pitch. Everything on this plane is controlled, assisted by gyros, rather. I do have also no gyros version, but the maneuverability really suffers. And landing with this thing is really difficult because it goes so fast and the runway is not enough, so I have to do a bit of nosedive to slow it down. Gyros are really important for this plane. As you can see, they let me do something like this, which a normal plane shouldn't be able to do. Okay, let's take a look at this plane. I use Dragon Jets instead of space thrusters because Dragon Jets are bigger, bulky and whatever, but they have more power than space thrusters. So that's why I chose them. Unfortunately, this led me to have a really bulky design, but I'm still inside my 100 blocks limit and I have 50 power cores. Let's take off the hood to show you what's inside, because this is really strange how I made this. As I said, this is the first plane that I made before every other plane that I showed you, and this is how I pioneered my tips and tricks. So we have quite a bit of logic inside. Let's take it out. That's all the logic there is, which is quite a lot for such a small plane. Let's put it back in and let's see how did I hook it, because I don't remember. There's this, which, yeah, controls the half throttle. Not really half, it's full throttle, but it's the toggle for the thrusters for throttle modulation. And why did I use a logic gate instead of just putting alt on every as input? Because they are without input, they are all controlled except for this here. No. Okay, this doesn't really make a sense. But anyways, why did I use a logic gate to hook them all up together? And that's because, as I told you, if I got hit by an EMP, if every single thruster was set to a toggle, then some might stay on and others might turn off, which is going to be a problem when you're flying, because you're not going to have full thrust first, and the thrust is going to be uneven, making flight really difficult. So without having any input, they might turn on or off if you are hit by an EMP, but they are not going to stay on or off, and everything is going to be controlled by the logic gate, which will give the same input to everything, and this will let everything settle correctly. If you get hit and some thrusters turn on and some other turns off, all you have to do is turn everything off, and the thrusters that are off won't turn on because you have no input given to them, because they have no input. And the logic gate is not telling them switch your status, but rather just turn off. And so you turn it on again and everything is on. Now I'm a bit curious of why I did the same for these thrusters over here, which are my afterburners with air quotes, because I could have just put space on them and it would have been a problem. I mean, if they were to turn off because of an EMP, I just had to release space and press it again. Oh well, that's why this was an experimental plane that I used as a benchmark. Afterwards, I learned from this, so some other things might not make sense to me now, but made sense to me in the past. Okay, this is for the air brake that I have. One logic controls one stabilizer, the other logic controls the other. That's because I chose to hook yaw in the tail, but then this leaves us with a problem, because one tail is going to open in the green direction, the other one in the right direction, so I had to set two different logic gates that basically do the same thing, just with inverted controls. Left control opens the brake, and X is just to reset in case of an EMP, because they are on separate logic gates, as I already showed you in other places. This is for the gyro, and this should be for the gyros as well. Okay, the gyros are set to 10, as I told you, but I have no inputs. The inputs are all on the logic gates, which are set to different values depending on the direction. Now let's talk a bit shape and aerodynamics. As you can see, I put the best aerodynamics everywhere, whenever I could. And this sharp air intake is a bit of a counterweight that I liked to use instead of using anything else, because I just needed a little bit of weight to give it some more nose down, because it had a little bit of nose up, and as I already told you, nose down is good, a slight amount, but nose up is going to make you stall if you don't correct it constantly. And this led me to have this kind of another canard shape on the plane, because thrusters don't really have that good of aerodynamics, so I had to cover it up in some way. But like this, it helps a lot with also with lifts, because these how are they called, wedge corners, help with lifts. But then I had the opposite problem. I have too much lift and too little balance. It was going to just point his nose up, especially at high speeds. So using a smaller wedge corner here and here, that helped to balance it out and also cover the bad aerodynamics of the Darwin jets. The second version that I made has lasers, as I already told you, blasters, which is helps with damage, but really takes away from speed. If we take a look how much fast this can go, the previous one was 830 kilometers per hour. This one struggles to reach 800. In fact, this goes 750 more or less, and it also has a slight nose up, but I just ignored the slight nose up. Okay, bad maneuver from my part there, because during a fight I'm going to point my nose around quite a lot. That's why I have strong gyros, which let me do crazy things like this. But what's the word? A downside of having such tone rates are that as soon as you engage a fight, you're going to lose a lot of speed. As you can see, I'm going really slow. I mean, I can still maneuver it, I don't really stall because I have really strong gyros. But yeah, this having all that speed doesn't really matter during a dogfight unless you are chasing, pursuing, because as soon as you enter a dogfight, your speed is going to be 100-150 kilometers per hour, if not even less. It depends how tight of a turn you are taking, how willing to stall you are. I think this is the only plane that has a handbrake. That's kind of funny, just pointing your tip basically going vertical to brake is quite absurd but quite funny. And well, this video is really long. I have an hour and 20 minutes on my timer. I hope I can fix it with some editing. I have some other videos planned for the future. In the future we will talk about cockpits and what I like, and maybe we'll build a plane, fix some other, we will see. Well, thank you all for watching. I've been Galaxy Drifter. We will see each other in the next episode, and until then, have a nice rest of your day. Goodbye.